世界中に眠る記録の残骸。
AD 指数2000前後の表層の記録だよ。場所なんてどうでもいいんじゃないか。
その中にごく稀に存在するかつての世界の断片、復元可能な二進数の暗号文。
石化の仕事、余計なことには手を出すな。了解。次の送ってくれ。明日は仕事あるからな。
また見つかったの？
一つ送っといた。今度はな、太陽光が遮られてない表層の記録。緑色の
So I rewatched a short film titled Pale Cocoon that I watched maybe a decade ago that came out in 2006, and I knew it was special at the time. It's a sort of scientific dystopian post-apocalyptic film. I knew it was special at the time, but watching it again years later, it actually reminds me a lot of the plotline of The 100. Specifically season 1, and I think it was season 5 or 6 of The 100. But basically, it is a form of predictive programming in anime. So in Pale Cocoon, there is this colony on the moon. It's actually called the Sea of Tranquility, which is kind of funny considering Elon Musk wants to build a moon base and he wants to colonize Mars. And I believe he and Buzz Aldrin called a proposed moon base Tranquility, which total coincidence, I'm sure. Wink, wink. But Pale Cocoon, again, it happened in 2006. I guess they're trying to hint that it could be quote-unquote climate change that causes the earth to become rusty and uninhabitable around the year 2218. But if we go by what the 100 did, it was AI, a rogue AI program starting a nuclear war that devastated the earth, and Becca Primehata had to go back down to earth and help restart humanity, and many people survived. And 100 years later, a group of youth convicts go down and test and see that the earth is habitable, and they lived in a space station spaceship that was orbiting the earth, so they were used to the radiation on the ground. Now with Pale Cocoon, it is a colony that has seemingly been abandoned by Earth. It's been 1,000 years at this point that they may have been on this moon base, and it seems like the origins of the moon base are lost on the current generation. We have one character, Ura, who is the only one seemingly working in his department, archiving old footage from humanity's past and of Earth and of places and greenery, as everybody else has quit and in depression and frustration at what could have been or what has been on the Earth. And they go, quote unquote, beneath the sea. Apparently the lowest level of their artificial structure and base on the moon. And then there is Rico, who is Ura's estranged girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, friend, lover. They had some sort of relationship, but it's not really explored and they don't seem as close because Ura is obsessed with trying to find out what happens to humanity. And meanwhile, Rico is, I believe she's the only person who works in her department, the restoration department, and she just wants nothing more to do with this, and she just sits in the corridor of a stairwell, actually, just staring up at space because that is where her grandmother died. Apparently, in her grandmother's generation, people could still live on the surface of the moon, and the anti gravitational cure worked, but something happened and it malfunctioned, and her grandmother fell from the surface all the way down to the stairwell that Rico is currently laying on, or currently lays on, in lieu of working and figuring out what happened in the past. So there is this music video from a woman, one of the first people, and I guess the first and last part of the first and last voyage of the Pale Cocoon, which is actually the name of a mothership that this moon-based civilization came to the moon on 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. And Yamaguchi Yoko leaves a music video, and it's basically corrupted binary code, and it takes, I guess, days. I don't know if it was weeks, but it takes days for Ura to decode this. And that gives him the gumption to go up above to the surface of their base. And when he gets up there, he sees that the earth is no longer rusted, but rather it's green. Green, blue. Owl means green and blue in Japanese. There's no distinction. And tamago means egg. So one of the documents say that Earth is a blue egg. And from the surface where Ura can see it, that's what it looks like. And then, of course, the anti-gravitational device malfunctions, and Ura is left stranded, floating in space. There's a dome above him on the moon, and it looks like the Earth is a dome as well, which is how it was drawn historically. Not going to get into that right now, but basically, it seems like, it's pretty ironic, and it's actually very sad at the same time, that Ura found out the truth that Earth is habitable, it's fine, and that they live on the moon, that they're not just this lost civilization with no purpose, that they were brought there with a purpose to wait there, presumably until the Earth healed. And due to people dying when the anti-gravitational devices malfunctioned on the surface of the moon, and just history being lost and corrupted digitally and through time, and through the loss of books and written physical material, and I guess oral stories from the people who passed away. I mean, Aurora would have been the only person who knows, and it seems like he's going to share the same fate as Rico's grandmother. Once the gravitational pull is restored, and he's just going to fall. And that'll be that for him. And that will be the last of the restoration department with him. I thought what was really interesting, though, I mean, the whole thing is interesting, but I thought what was really interesting is, aside from saying that humans originated in the sea, which in a lot of mythology and folklore, humans did originate in the sea, the waters of chaos. It's like the underworld, and Tiamat is the dragoness who guards it. And if you've heard the word Tiamat before, it probably sounds familiar if you've seen Your Name or Kimi no Na wa by Makoto Shinkai, the film. It was super popular. The comet Tiamat, and I guess the assumption, or as mythology dictates, there is a dome over our Earth, so above us is waters, below us is waters. But in the case of Kimi no Na wa, the comet, it could be referring to the waters below or the waters above. And it's a lot of time travel and other shenanigans. So basically, it's referring to Tiamat, the water dragon of the chaos realm. But aside from the belief that people came from the sea. What was also interesting is that there was a mention that the sun had disappeared. And I guess means that the sun disappeared from the moon from their point of view, or maybe their artificial sun, and that's why they also stayed underground, in addition to just the gravitational uh, gravitational machines not working. There have been a few commercials over the years of the sun going out and being changed. There was one, for the life of me, I can't find the whole clip on YouTube. I don't know why YouTube does things like this. I did find a piece of it, well, the whole thing on TikTok, and I do know the TikToker. I'm familiar with his work, but I couldn't on my mobile phone go back 2-3 years in his archives to try to find the whole thing. So I have like a little snippet from somebody else's video who I guess stitched his. And then there was a little quote unquote skit that depicted this as well from a YouTube duo of some type. And then we have in real life Bill Gates. I mean, the project seems to have been stopped with Harvard, but Bill Gates had a plan to block out the sun. China has released artificial suns to act as nuclear reactors, they say, to harness energy, which maybe that's the cause of all the wicked storms that have been happening in China and seeming plagues and economic failure, and that's probably why a lot of Chinese are illegally coming here. And then we have again the Elon Musk moon base, Mars base thing. It's just very interesting to me. It's I'm being sarcastic, but it is interesting that all these things always come full circle, whether it's nearly 20 years later in the case of this film. It's always the same things you see in media coming true or trying to be manifested into our reality. And it's always a dystopian timeline, and it's always a timeline that's okay. This one would be one of the dystopian timelines where Ura and Rico and the others are basically living in a concentration camp with no memories of humanity's past. Which I don't think reality is going to be that grim, but I mean, everybody seems so hopeful. And there was a music video even for the Sea of Tranquility in the beginning. And then on the maiden voyage, for some reason, the ship broke and nobody from Earth came to their aid. And 1,000 years later, there's just a pocket of humanity that has no clue where they even are, or why they're there. And meanwhile, Earth is habitable, and it's probably a whole bunch of people, like in the 100, just living their lives and have no clue that there are people stranded on the moon. But if you've seen this film, let me know what you think. It's kind of an oldie, but it's a goodie, and I've just been going through some of the old films I used to like. It's just a mental list in my mind of interesting things to talk about and just look for little clues, since we live in very strange times. But let me know what you think. I have the blog post version of this up on my blog in Asian Spaces. And yeah, what do you think about this? Let me know, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye bye. Share the video if you liked it, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye bye.